Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fill Your Cup podcast. I hope you're having a great day, great morning, great evening, whatever time it is for you. But today, our guest is Kevin Thornton. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kevin Thornton. I go by KT mostly.
Yeah, we call him KT.
Yeah.
Tell him how do we know each other?
Well, my daughter has danced with Caitlin for many, many years, and our families have become very close. And Caitlin's like another daughter to me, and we've gone through a lot over life together, seen the ugly and the good, and love you very much. I love your family very much. And her little sister is like, I can't explain her. She's legendary, beyond really description. And so I got really close to the family because of her. She kind of pretty much insisted we were going to be close, and that's
Yeah.
I already loved Caitlin, but I've gotten to know her the last couple of years, and even more. It's been special.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
We're tight or whatever.
Yeah, we
It's
are.
fine. Yeah. Well, today we're just gonna kind of go into your story. You know, what makes Kevin, why everyone loves Kevin, why the Lord put you here.
Why everybody loves me.
But before we get into everything, there's one question that I start the podcast off with everything.
Okay.
And because purpose, you know, Fill Your Cup, we talk about purpose, and purpose, I think, really goes hand in hand with like where in life you find fulfillment. So where do you feel like you find like your most joy and fulfillment?
Other than the beach, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or the beach can be one.
That's one of them. Obviously for me, and you know me well enough to know my family is everything to me. I got that from my dad because my family was everything to him. In fact, when I was about 10 years old, my dad was getting irritated because when we would do family events, he would get irritated because everyone had to drive in separate cars. So he went and bought this 18-passenger van, the ugliest van you've ever seen in your life. It was tan and brown striped. None of us wanted to ride in it. And there were 18 members of our family. It was big, and it also had the General Lee horn on it, which he would honk often, which embarrassed us all. But he did that because he wanted the family to be together. We'd actually get in that van and we would travel everywhere together. And so I kind of got that from that, probably from my dad and mom. But I find such fulfillment in my in raising my children. I quit a job one time so I could go home and be with my children and raise them. And then the other thing fulfilling to me is if I ever know that I've made a difference in someone's life and they care enough to say thank you for what you've given to me. I don't think there's anything more fulfilling than that. Those two things.
Yeah. Just being able to like touch other people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what we'll get into talking about later will help explain a lot of that. But I think to kind of set the stage, do you want to talk about like kind of your story, like how you grew up, or, what are things that like different stages of your life that you've gone through that have helped make you who you are today?
Okay. Again, I was raised in a Christian home by a legendary father. He was a dad to not just to his children, but he was a dad to anybody out there. I look back on it, and I actually got to preach my dad's funeral, and it was one of the hardest things I ever did, but yet one of the most honorable things I've ever experienced. And at his wake, there were people that were showing up everywhere I had never met, and my family had never met them. And they just wanted to come introduce themselves to us and just say to us, your dad's been like a dad to me for years. He's helped us at the gas station, or he helped us. He gave us money one time to get gas. He gave us food one day. He was at the grocery store, paid for our food, things like that. So I was raised around a man like that. And I wish, you could go back as a kid and go back and change so many things you didn't appreciate then. But that was the way I was raised, and I was raised in a Christian home. My mom pretty much told me I was saved before I actually was saved, and she didn't give me a choice but to be saved. And I rebelled like every other silly teenager out there. Played baseball. All I ever wanted to do was play sports, and that was the one thing in life I was good at. I could play any sport, and I was scholarshiping and all this stuff. And I went to a youth camp in 1985 or 86. I can't remember exactly what it was, maybe 86. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the youth camp, no, it was 87. It was the year I graduated. And in the middle of the youth camp, this guy was speaking, and he does this this message about, will you be a light? And of course, I was like, this is great and all. And then all of a sudden, at the end, he turns out all the lights in the sanctuary. It's like, I don't know, there's tons of kids there. I was just one of many sitting he turns the lights out, and he lights his candle. And he said, I chose long ago to be a light. And I got so overwhelmed and so convicted in that moment. I heard the Holy Spirit really just say to me, really one from the first times in my life, I could really hear God say to me, I have something different for you. I'm going to use you if you allow me. And I dedicated my life to the Lord that night, really dedicated my life to the Lord that night. And ever since then, I found myself in the craziest situations in this world. And I was, as far as going into ministry, I wasn't normal. I wasn't put on your tie and guy and look like a preacher and sound like a preacher and all that kind of stuff. I just wasn't that kind of guy. I wasn't very religious. I was me. And I maintained that over the years. And I think because of my dad's impact on my life and the Lord really changing me drastically over time, it's kind of made me who I am. I love people that are abnormal.
Yeah.
That's not why I love you, but you're not abnormal. But I do love people that are not normal. I love, and I think that's where I find so much fulfillment in life is I actually remember early on in my life, I was probably 21 years old. And I told the Lord, I was like, okay, I don't fit in church. I don't fit the norm. I'm not that guy. And I told the Lord, I was like, but if you will give me the people that nobody else wants, if you'll put me in the pathway of people who've been abandoned, who've been rejected, who feel alone, and they feel like they don't fit anywhere, if you'll put me in their pathway, I'll say yes to you. He's done that my whole life. And so that impact of my dad on my life, teaching me how to be a dad, and then just God changing my heart to be in the kind of show up in someone's way that's lost and has felt so abandoned that they're looking for just love. They're looking for that. And that really shaped me. That shaped me my whole life.
Yeah. I can see that so clearly. I mean, I obviously don't know a lot of your past, but just in the years that we've become so close and I've gotten so close to Bliss and your entire family, I've watched people come in and out of your life, and they're not a norm. A lot of the times they're not similar to maybe how your family is and how my family is, or their beliefs or anything like that. And those I've seen firsthand, those are the people that have been touched the most by you, because they come in and you just accept them for who they are. And I think a lot of people don't feel that anymore. I feel like we live in a very comparative and just judgmental world, and you're this person that people look up to, but then it makes all the difference because you sit down and talk to them no matter what they've gone through.
Yeah.
And it seems like your dad inspired a lot of that.
He did. Yeah, I can't imagine being, neither Lisa nor I can't imagine being a part of something that just is almost like a cookie cutter type religion, being a part of something that we all look the same. And I'll give you a small story. So when no more sooner than I prayed that, I took a job as a youth pastor in a church called Muse Memorial Church on 10th Street in Oklahoma City. And it was an all-white church, except for 2 young black kids in my youth group, Gerald and Lemuel. And one night, they asked if they could bring some of their friends to the lock-in that we were having. I was like, of course you can bring them. And they're like, well, we're going to need a ride. I'm like, okay, I got you. We got a church van, 2 to 3 church vans. We're good. The only thing is only one of the church vans worked that night. And so I scheduled to pick them up on that Friday afternoon. When I showed up, there was about 60 black kids out there. Now, you have to understand, this is a white church. Not that they didn't want black people, but it was not normal. It was literally not normal. Yeah. You have a bunch of gang members. You have a bunch of kids who have no father. Some of them live by themselves. Just, their gang members are their family. And I'm pulling up going, what in the world do I do? So I picked up about 60 at an apartment complex, brought them back to the church, called some friends and said, okay, we're in trouble. I got a bunch of kids here I don't know what to do with. I don't have enough sponsors here. So I had probably 10 people show up that night. And they're like, okay, we got you. Because Gerald says, well, we got to go to another apartment complex. So I went to another one, picked up another 60, 70 kids, brought them in. After that, I picked up another, it ended up being about 180 or so. My gym that night, okay, I had about 11 white kids, and there was about 180, or so black kids that was like, didn't sleep all night long because they were gang members and they don't go to sleep. They stay awake the whole night. So immediately I found myself in the middle of something so uncomfortable, something I'm not, it's not normal to me. But what I found myself was a bunch of kids who needed somebody to love them. And I did. I fell in love with them. That's been my story. I left there. That's for another day. I'll tell you another day. The rest, because with all the shootings and all the riots and all the stuff, yeah. Deaths, sad things, happy things, good things, all the stuff there. It was an amazing story. But I went on to pastor a church on 10th Street because I went back and we planted a church down there. And my church was full of people that were rejected. My drummer was drunk half the time until we had to actually get another drummer because, I had to sit him down. I was like, you can't play drums today because you're drunk, okay? Man, I came to church. I was like, I know, but you can't play today because you're literally drunk. So you're going to sit down for a while until you get sober. That kind of thing. Strippers, prostitutes. My wife and another lady in my church actually had a ministry to the Red Dog right down the street. Okay. The Red Dog are you familiar with that? It's a very notorious strip club. It's the oldest, I believe, strip club in Oklahoma history. Okay. It's right there on 10th Street.
Yes.
Yeah, and most people know what the Red Dog is. But we had a ministry to the women down there. Brought them in, served them, loved them. My women went into the Red Dog on Saturdays. The owner actually let a prayer group go in. The girls would go dance and they would come off the stage and they would go pray with our women and cry, and we would help them and pray with them and restore them, and to the homeless, to drug addicts, to just far out there people, hurt, rejected people. God has always put me around those kind of people. Yeah. And it's still like that in my life. They don't always look like that. Yeah. But rejected and hurting people don't always look like that. Sometimes rejected and hurting people look just like you and me. And there's a hole in them. And so God's always put me in the path of those people. And over time, I realized that that's where I'm the most comfortable now. Yeah. I'm most comfortable around those type of people. So that's a little bit about my story.
Yeah. No, I think that's just so, that gives me goosebumps almost, because that's such a powerful story. I know that. How did that experience as kind of a younger, more new pastor, kind of at the beginning of that, help transform you into how you lead people today? Like people that are struggling with mental health or, whatever the case may be. It might not even be mental health. How's that? I guess I don't even know how to form it right. But Do you understand?
No,
what
I get
I'm
you.
saying? Okay, yeah.
First of all, I didn't fit then with the norm. Like, so when pastors would have to go to these conventions or go to these seminars or go to these conferences, I looked to them like I didn't fit. I came in jeans and flip flops and a t-shirt, back then, and they all had on suits and ties, and I just didn't fit. I realized really quickly that how I felt among them, and I was going to make sure that I didn't make anybody feel like that around me. I determined that's how it shaped me. That was your question, how it shaped me. It transformed me because I did not want anybody in my presence to ever feel like that was rejecting them in any way. And so, when you work with some of the people that I've worked with over the years, they come in one way, but you can't look at someone and literally just decide, well, that's how they're going to end up.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And honestly, we're all so flawed. And I come from that standpoint. Is anybody who tries to actually pretend to me like that they're not flawed? Those are the ones I actually feel I have the most fun with, because I'm like, it won't be long before you're going to be just like everyone else, and you're going to need someone to love you when you fail, love you when you're struggling, love you when you don't fit, love you when you don't feel loved by God. And that's what shaped me over the years. I don't want anybody in my presence to ever feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one does.
I think that I test that so much, especially as you're a coach figure, like a mentor figure to so many people, and even in conversations that we've had between you, me, and Bliss, or you and all of your kids and me. And I can see that, we've all had our own struggles with people in our lives, and instead of continuing the conversation, like letting it go down the route of, oh, I can't believe they did this to me, or, oh, I can't believe they're acting that way, or I can't believe that they did this, this, and this, I would never. You've always been the person to be like, why do you think that they did that? Why do you think that they're acting in that way? Why do you think that they're treating you this way? And do you think that there's something behind that? Like, yes. I know that there's many people that we've both had relationships with that you have said, and it's something that I agree with so wholeheartedly, just because of my family's experience with, I've been across the country. My whole life, because my dad, I've met so many different people, and even whenever I was young, I lived in a house that fostered kids all the time. And so I've met people with a lot of different backgrounds, and I always agree with you so much when you're like, okay, but what do we not know about them? Like, what is happening at their home life that they're not sharing, and how can you inspire them? Like, I feel like every time we're complaining, you're like, okay, but how can you help them instead?
Yeah, you know why? Because that's what I desire in my life. God is very clear in His Word. He's very clear, and we forget about this. He said, I will forgive you, but you have to forgive. If you want grace, give it. He says, give, and you will have such. Is that my phone or is it yours?
It might be yours.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm going to turn it off if it's mine. I apologize, guys. Give, and it will be given to you. Press down. Okay, you're very familiar with that scripture. Everyone is usually. Press down, shaken together, running over, we put in your bosom. That's the verse. Okay, a lot of people think that verse is simply tied to monetary giving, as in finances.
Yeah.
They use it in church all the time. Give, and it will be given. So they teach you give money, and God will give you money. That is not the meaning of that passage. The meaning of that passage is it's referencing mercy. It's referencing grace. The whole content of leading up to that verse is not money. It's mercy and grace. And what God is saying in His Word is if you will give mercy, I'll give you mercy. And the more you give mercy, the more mercy I give to you. That's what I want. So that's the way I look at things. There's always a reason behind someone's story. There's a reason why someone's angry. There's a reason why people lash out. I'm not excusing that. Mm-hmm. It's not okay to hurt people. Mm-hmm. And I think you call people on that. But there's always a reason behind why they're doing what they're doing. And I feel like life is so short that it's just too short to waste it on harboring all these feelings and emotions towards someone. I just think it's too short, because one of the things that once you do, even when you judge someone, it takes away from your joy in life. It literally mm-hmm. takes away from it. There's a space in you mm-hmm. that needs to be filled with love and needs to be filled. We're talking about filling your cup. What are you filling your cup with, right? And I know you probably covered that 1,000 times on here, but if one little touch of bitterness in your cup can taint the whole drink, one little touch, and one little touch of unforgiveness, one little touch of harboring any type of resentment towards someone, why they're doing one little bit of that can taint the entire drink in your cup. And, mm-hmm. and what are you pouring out then? That's exactly what they're pouring out.
Yeah.
And so my desire is to literally give so much mercy and grace to someone else that when it comes time for me to ask God for mercy and grace, I really hope that he gives me mercy and grace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so you, like, through and through, because one of the biggest parts of my walk with God is that moment that we had together whenever you were praying over me and you're like, Caitlin, God is going to be with you, and I'm not excusing everything that all of these people have done to you, but you need to take the space in your heart to forgive them. And that was one of the biggest moments of change in my heart. And I'll still think, because even daily, like, sometimes you'll have people in your life where it is a daily choice to exhibit kindness and to be open and loving to them whenever day by day it feels like they're not reciprocating that. But something I heard the other day, or just was reminded of, is God says, keep no record of wrongs. And I think I was in the car driving, and I was like, you're right, God. And I really tried to spend that time praying specifically over the people that maybe would be the last ones I would want to do that for. And I was like, Lord, like, please bless them. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I was like, Lord, please bless them, because they have purpose in their life. And even if, like, I have a struggle with them right now, that's a page of each of our own stories. And I feel like you living that out so much in your life has taught me to do the same. And I'll even have people reach out to me now that had hurt me so much in the past. And because I was kind of that person, because I think a lot of like our friends would be like, Caitlin, like, why don't you reciprocate? Like, say something back, like counteract. Like, you don't need to let someone treat you this way. And I've always been like, I don't know. There's just something that never felt right about lashing back. And I was finally able to see the fruition of just, like, turning your cheek, just like God kind of says to do. And if someone feels safe this might kind of sound harsh, but if someone feels safe enough to hurt you, it's probably because they have a lot of other things that they don't feel safe in their own life. And forgiving them and just continuing in life with joy and, like, you know, exhibiting that to them too. I've actually had, like, quite a few people reach out to me and be like, thank you so much, and I'm so sorry for anything I've ever done, but, like, thank you so much for the way that you always acted. And that's not an action of me. That's just me trying to be Christ-like and try to do what I believe that God, you know, would have wanted me to do. This
is really deep. It's very good. So while we're here, there's a couple of things about forgiveness. One, if you wait for someone to say, I'm sorry, you might wait your whole life. Mm-hmm. That means you're carrying weight on your back, a huge weight on your back. When I urge people to forgive right now, forgive right in this moment. Mm-hmm. Stop what you're doing and just say, God, help me forgive them. I don't want to carry this weight on me any longer, because you're carrying a weight on you when you don't forgive.
Yeah.
And the moment you forgive, it does not forget. And another thing about forgiveness does not excuse action. That's not what forgiveness is about. It's not. That's only God can truly do that. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. I'm not excusing you for doing what you did. But I'm getting rid of this baggage that I've been carrying around for too long.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna set it down, and I'm gonna practice this my whole life. Well, there's another thing, is as you grow and mature in the Lord, you grow in compassion, because the moment you forgive them, you literally give them permission to take that weight off of their back. Mm-hmm. And it changes them. Let's reverse it. When I go to God and He forgives me, what happens? I was just talking to my kids. I teach a Bible class at Kingsgate, and I was just teaching them this morning. When you ask God to forgive you and He forgives you, you literally have a weight lifted off of your back. Mm-hmm. And it's good to know that we serve a God who at any point in time through His new covenant promised us that if you ask me to forgive you, Jesus has already done everything, that you don't need to do anything. You need to sacrifice. You don't need to take an animal out back right here behind the barn, and sacrifice an animal. Jesus has already sacrificed for you. All you have to do is embrace Him, accept Him, believe on His name, and ask Him to forgive you. The weight comes off of our shoulders. Yeah. There's nothing greater than that. There's no greater thing on this earth to know that I'm right with God. When you forgive someone else, that moment you forgive them, the weight comes off of them. The rest is between them and God. Now, God starts working. But you already testified to this. You forgave people who came back later and said, I'm sorry. See, that's what happens. I can't explain the supernatural element of this. But the moment you start forgiving, their lives start changing, because the weight comes off, and then they want you to make sure that I'm sorry. You never wait for someone else to change before you forgive them.
I feel like there's a weight that gets taken off of it takes a weight off yourself, because you're you're not taking that burden of trying to fix whatever is going on there. Sure. You let it go, forgive and let that. I think that's another thing, is you can't wait for someone's apology. No. Because you might be waiting for the rest of your life. That's and there's definitely people in my life I'm not going to wait around for them to apologize, because that's not something that should be harboring on my heart. There's so many other things that I should be focusing my time and energy on. Some of that being forgiving and giving life to them, because most likely they're some of the people that need it the most.
Yes. When you talk about, not shifting gears, but when you talk about mental health, you mentioned that earlier. Yeah. I can't encourage people who struggle with mental health, anxiety, fear, rejection, all this stuff. I can't encourage them more than I'm possibly trying to do right now. I wish I could do more to get people and talk people into walking down that road of forgiving and granting mercy, because there was a time in our medical history that scientists, doctors believed that the brain couldn't be rewired. And over studies over time, I think in the last 2 decades, we've learned more about mental health and about the rewiring of the brain than we ever knew prior to this day. We're learning more. It's like we hit a plateau, and then it shot up. We're starting to learn that actually it's called neuroplasticity. The brain can be rewired. What happens is when you're young, sometimes you're taught to harbor resentment. You're taught to not forgive. You're taught to get them back. Mm-hmm. And what that does is it eats away at your peace. It eats away at your own self-fulfillment and joy in life. Mm-hmm. When you're more concerned about making sure that everybody else gets them back, or that you get them back, when you're more concerned about that than you are getting this weight off of you, that's when it weighs on you, and it weighs on your mental health.
Yeah.
Because listen, that's so unhealthy, because you start trying to maneuver and manipulate life because that's all you know now. Mm-hmm. When instead, if you start this process of mercy and forgiveness down the road or earlier on, it takes such weight off of you that your mind actually can rebuild to a healthy state of living. I firmly believe that. And I do believe that the mind can be rewired to think about this. If you are angry at someone, you're unhappy. That's what's going to, when you give someone your cup with your theme, they're going to taste it and they're going to, well, you said you're happy, but that's a little bit bitter. Yeah. Because that's what's in your cup. That one little stuff, that one little drop can taint the whole drink. Mm-hmm. And that's because that's what's in you. And so the more you learn of how healthier you feel when you let go of his offenses, right? The more you do that, the healthier your mind will feel. And you can rewire your brain to start thinking like that. Yeah. That it's not worth living 10 more years being angry and upset at someone. Mm-hmm. I just feel like that younger people, not just my age, we need to hear it too, but this younger generation needs to hear it. It's not okay to get on social media and blast people. You're wasting time, and you are literally wiring your brain in an unhealthy way. You'll start living your life like that. You'll teach your children that. Yeah. One day, and you'll start going, how do I get out of this? And it is a horrible spiral that continues down your whole life if you're not careful. And you can rewire the way you think. Actually, the scripture says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Mm-hmm.
So God says it himself.
And he said it a long time ago, yeah. Mm-hmm. We're catching up.
Yeah. Well, and I really agree that I think especially a lot of my generation has been taught to harbor things and be like, you do what's best for you. You do what you need to do. You do your own thing. Nothing else matters. Other people around you don't matter. And I think that's been something in the past couple of years I've learned, because it's like our culture has made that seem okay and right, and that's like the best thing to do. And then in these past 2 years, I've had to kind of sit with myself and have that moment of just like rewiring my brain and how I consider things, because I'm like, that's actually one of the most selfish things that we can do, is just worry about ourselves and not care about how we're treating other people, how we're coming off to the people around us, or how are we giving? Like, how are we sacrificing ourselves to the people around us? Because if we're not doing that, then we're going to get to the end of life and we might look at ourselves, but nobody in our tribe, in our community is going to be there standing with us.
Oh my goodness. That's really healthy way to look at life. That is so mature of you. I'm so proud of you for saying that.
Thanks.
Think about this. You get to the end of your journey and you look around and there's nobody there with you. How horrible of a feeling that is. Mm-hmm. I am so glad you brought this up. Shifting again. This was on my heart. It's on my heart to tell every high school senior in this country. I want to get to every high school senior that I can and tell them this. And I told the Lord, it's like, if you put this in my heart to do, I'm willing to say it. So you're a senior, so you'll be my first. Will the people that are under you now, the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen, when you graduate, I'm going to ask you a question. You ready? Will they cry that you're gone? Or will they go, glad she's out of here?
Well,
you don't have to answer that.
I was like, well, I mean, I know I don't have to, but I know my people, and I know what I pour into my people. And I know if it was reversed, I'd be crying for them. I know Bliss.
Bliss will cry.
Bliss will cry.
My point is this. What are you depositing?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't understand. Okay, don't get me wrong. Okay. All my boys, they had their, and I taught my boys this. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're leaving your senior year of high school, what are you leaving behind? I told Hayden, when Hayden was, being recruited by colleges and doing his thing, I kept asking him though, I would always remind him of this. What kids are you touching in the locker room? Do you want to be known as the mean jock who always was, better than everybody else and didn't have time for the little ones? And there was one little story that meant a lot to me. He comes home. I push that in him all the time. It's like, are you caring about the people underneath you? Do they know you love them? Do you go out of your way? Well, Dad, this is my senior year. I was like, but I don't care. I understand that. I understand you only get one. I get it. But the people underneath you, do they know that you love them? Do they know it? Oh, no. Well, it's time you learn. It's time you start doing something about it. He comes home one day. He hit me out of left field. It's like I wasn't even thinking about it. He sits down and he goes, Dad, I just want you to know, I've been offering to take this boy home after school. And I said, what do you mean take him home? He's like, well, their family doesn't have a lot of money, and he has to walk. He walks to practice a long ways every day. And I just told him that I'll take him home. And it was quite a ways from the school. And it was like a freshman or sophomore. And after he did it, I would talk to him. I said, how's that make you feel? Oh, pretty good, I guess. But as he's learned later in life, that boy will never forget. They don't care if he was a good football player, Caitlin. They couldn't care less. No one cares that you're a good football player. What they care about is, how did you treat them?
Yeah.
And I want to get this message out to all high school seniors. I do. How are you treating the people underneath you? What are you leaving? What are you depositing? What do they see in you? And I don't know who's listening to this. I hope some high school seniors are listening to it. But, my daughter, I tell my daughter all the time, how do the people around you feel about you? Do they really believe you love them? Because I'll listen. Okay, boys never talk. Girls talk. Bliss talks more. In fact, she talks enough for all three of them, right?
I know.
She can talk. And we do our Starbucks dates, and we go out, or we go get Roxy's ice cream. We sit, and she talks. And I listen first. Mm-hmm. But she knows what's coming. She knows what's coming. I have to remind her, do they know you love them? Do they know? And I guess, honestly, Caitlin, at the end of the day, that's what I care about.
Yeah.
I always wanted you to know that. I still want you to know that I love you. No matter what happens. I'll always tell you that. And no matter what happens in your life, you can always know, I don't care what anybody else says or what anybody else thinks. Has nothing to do with me, because I love you.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to know around me.
Yeah. Wow. That was really good. That was really good. I think that whenever I do interviews a lot, sometimes people ask me, what is my biggest fear? And I feel like that's such a broad thing. Okay. And that's there's so many things that I could touch on. But I always say that my biggest fear is regret and getting at the end and regretting treating people a certain way, or regretting not showing every ounce of love to people. And that, like, that's why, like, this, I mean, if no one else gets anything from this, which I'm sure they will, like, then this can be for, like, you just saying all that was so much for me, because it just, like, affirmed the importance of being that person for the people around you. And even in small things, even on Palm, whenever Coach Jay was asking, talking to us seniors and, like, asking, like, having us tell her which captain positions we would like on the team, and she kind of picked after all of us applied for different ones, and she asked me why I wanted to be the morale captain. And I said, I know I'm not the best on the team, and I probably won't be that girl that everyone else on the team is like, oh, like, she's gonna go like to this college and do all these great things. But I was like, I want to be remembered for how I treated the individuals on the team, and keeping that up, and not keeping everybody in a positive mood that's fake, but being real with people and letting them know that, like, it's okay. Like, we have a lot of hard moments on Palm. It's a hard thing to do.
I hear all about it all the time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But whenever I catch myself being down, I find myself in a moment of, like, okay, Caitlin, like, you might be feeling this way, but everyone else around you is probably feeling this even more. So what do you need to do to give to the people around you and make them feel better? And I feel like that's something that I want to take into every area of my life, especially whenever I go to college in less than a year. There's so many different personalities and backgrounds and just everything. It's like a melting pot of all these different things, and I want to be that light to other people.
Then you know what? If you want to be, God will put you in those places. Mm-hmm. He will. Because there are always those people out there who need to feel loved. Mm-hmm. Especially the shiny faces that act like they don't, or the mean faces that act like they don't. The I've got it all together faces that act like they don't. No. When you realize that you are in a room of broken people, God put us all back together at some point. Every one of us in this room, I promise you, there's been brokenness in this room. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I come across to people. I know sometimes I come across in weird ways to people, but what they eventually learn about me was I was broken too. And when you are aware that the other person you're dealing with is broken, just like you, it makes it a little easier to love them.
Mm-hmm. Because we're all just on the same level.
I promise you that's true.
A lot of people forget that. You're not better than someone else because of where you came from, or what you're doing in life, or what you haven't done in life. It's all the same. God did not die on the cross for him to say that some of us are better than others.
No. He did not. I get the privilege. So, almost full circle. Mm-hmm. I quit my job last year because a Christian school called me and asked me to consider coming and being their athletic director at their school. And I said, okay, no way. And there's no way I can do that. And they called me again, and I was like, I don't see that happening. And he called me a third time. Are you sure? And by that time, God had dealt with my heart. And I said I knew it was the right thing for me to do. And I get this privilege of every day, every morning that I go to that school. It's really my favorite moment of the day. It's in the morning. I stand in one part of the hallway where I see most every child or high school kid from kindergarten all the way to high school. And I get to high five them every day. I fist bump, high five, like shoulder bump. I've learned all their names, etc. And I am amazed that after all these years, God has still answered that prayer from me a long time ago. Put me around people that nobody else loves, that nobody else wants, nobody else cares about. They feel rejected. They feel lonely. He put me in a school. That's where he put me. Mm-hmm. And I cannot tell you how much fulfillment I get by having this little child, first grade, runs up to me out of nowhere and just bear hugs my legs. And then I get another one that bear hugs me. I've got like 9 kids around my legs. And some days I think to myself, what have you done? What have you done with your life? Why are you here? And then they do that. And what they know, people are like, oh, it's frustrating to some degree. You're like, oh, they love Coach T. They love Coach T. And what I'm like, what you're not understanding is there's a reason why. Mm-hmm. It's because every one of them know that I love them. I loved them first, just like God did me. He taught me that. He taught me that. He loved me first. Right? He's taught us how to treat other people by loving them first. And every one of them that come in every morning, I tell them how awesome they are. I tell them how beautiful they are. I tell them, and a lot of them don't get to hear that at home. Mm-hmm. And they certainly don't get to hear it in school. But I tell them.
Yeah.
I'll chase them down the hallway, tell them. I'll yell at them a mile away down the hallway. You're awesome. I'll tell them that. And people are like, I don't know why they love you so much. Well, it's because, here's why. It's not me. It's because they know I love them. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's literally nothing else to it. There's no magic. There's no special ability. It's because they know. That's the secret. I love them. They know that. That's why they love me. Mm-hmm. And it may take some time in your life for some people in your life. It may take some time. But if you will continually love them first and pour on the love, they can't help but love you back. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you this. At the end of my life, of course, everybody wants to be loved.
Yeah.
But here's what I've always told God. I still feel this way. And it's pretty powerful, I think. And it's very profound. It's simplistic, but profound. At the end of my life, at my funeral, it's not as important to me that I was loved. But it's that people in that room know that I love them. Mm-hmm. That's how I live my life. And I'm grateful that God's given me the opportunity to do it. It really is a lifestyle. And I would encourage anybody to experience the love of God like that. To give it so much that that's how you're fulfilled in life.
Ooh. You got me kind of teary-eyed.
Well, you know I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you back. Well.
Before you go, I want to tell you something. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of who you've become. This little bitty redheaded girl that I saw all those years ago. If people were surrounding her, they would never know who you would evolve into. God did. God knew the whole time. But I just want you to know how proud I am of you and how amazed I am at how you've allowed God to work on your heart and chisel away at a heart that was probably hardened in some ways, and how part of your heart was broken in a lot of ways, and there was a hole in there, and how you've allowed God to heal you and bring such change and transformation to your life. I'm so proud of you. I think your mom, and I don't really know your real dad. I don't know him, but I know Adam is proud. They're very proud of you too and who you've become. But it really means something to a parent when someone else on the outside of their life can look and see the exact same thing. I'm so proud of who you become. I cannot wait to see who you become. I literally can't wait. And I just think that you haven't even touched the surface of who God wants to create in you. I really believe that. So I just want you to know that. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you. Well, that's about all the time we have.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to say for everyone watching? Anything that you just want everyone to know?
Well, okay, I'll end with a story. Small story. I heard this just recently on Hard Knocks, and I went and studied it. It's true. Okay. There's a scripture that says, the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous run into it and are safe and are glad. In the Hebrew, that phrase means that they're on high. Here's the story. It's very small. An eagle is known for flying higher than any other bird. That's its power. It can fly and soar like no other bird can fly that high, right? So in other words, there are no other birds can attack it. Most birds fear the eagle, but there's one bird that will fear, or that does not fear the eagle, and it attacks it. Do you know what it is? You guys know? It's a. What's your guess?
Owl?
No. It's a good guess. It's a crow. So a crow.
Same.
A crow will get on the back of the neck of an eagle, and like peck away at its neck. And the eagle, instead of fighting back, you know what the eagle does?
What?
It soars so high to the point where it chokes out the oxygen of the crow, and the crow can't breathe, and the crow falls off dead. Here's what I'm saying. If I could say anything to anybody, is when you allow God to work on the things that we've talked about just in this podcast, about loving people, about letting go of those things, about getting all that mess off of you so God can really heal you, restore you, and give you mental health and emotional health and spiritual health. All that's connected. That's like the eagle soaring. Instead of fighting all this stuff down here, instead of fighting people and telling people you're ugly and you're stupid and you're dumb and you should have said that. No, soar. Until all that stuff falls off of you and you're in a way with God that your heart is right with God, your heart is pure with the Lord, and He's pleased with you. That means you're up here. And the crows of life, they fall off. When you learn to find your place and your peace in God, and you're going to let all that other stuff go, that's like don't mess with the crows. Don't even fight them. Just soar. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. That's Isaiah 40 and 31. In His Word, He's teaching us that if we will allow Him to heal and restore us and renew us and not hold on to all these grudges and all this mess, He'll cause us to soar. Those crows will fall off. That's what I'll leave you with.
I think that's a good thing to leave everyone.
All right.
Well, thanks for coming on here today.
It was my honor.
I'm really glad you came.
Me too.
To everyone tuning in, you can. I mean, I really don't have anything else to say, but thanks for watching today, and yeah, Kevin Thornton, everyone.